Hey guys, what is up? Navy Boy here. Today we are going to be talking about the 5-1 win over the Maple Leafs last night by the New Jersey Devils. By the way, welcome to this new series I'm starting called Devil's Advocate. It was started because I talked about it on the Devils subreddit, r/Devils, and I decided I'd just make a show out of it. So for right now, because we're coming off of a season, the videos won't be very consistent. They'll be when major news gets announced, major trades, free agency pickups, drafts, stuff like that. I may be doing some collaborations with other people in the subreddit. It seems to be things might go that way, and that'd be pretty cool. But this episode is just going to be to go over the win last night, which for you, when this comes out on Monday, would have been 2 days ago, but that's just kind of how my recording schedule worked out with school and everything. Also going to be talking about the pros I found this season, the cons I found this season, and what I think we should do going forward, and what the plan for this series is going forward. So to start, I'm not going to do this how a lot of people do with these games, where it's like I'm going to say, you know, I'm going to give you the story of the game. Hopefully you watched it. If not, go check out the highlights on the NHL YouTube channel. Probably can find them elsewhere. I'm sure some of them are posted to the subreddit because some of them are pretty important. But just mostly just to tell you that this is how this is going to be, and I'm just going to tell you how the game went. First of all, the offense was finally there. We played a strong game. Now, I get it's against Toronto, and I get that's not a very strong team, but they've shown they can beat major teams. So I think we played very well for that. And our rookies showed they can actually play at that level. The number one rookie, I think, that played that way. Now, I know we took Joseph Blandisi and Reed Boucher off the team, but they were going back to Albany to play in the playoffs. Totally get that. They need to be there. That's where they need to be for right now. People who needed to come up, though, Pavel Zacha. We finally got to see Zacha in action in the Devils uniform, and he played amazingly. He played exactly how we wanted him to play. He was offensive. He was strong. He was strong on the puck. He was like lifting dudes off the puck that were like bigger than him. He's just like, get off my puck. But I think he really honestly played a very strong game, and I think if we can keep him, I think he's got a slot on this Devils team next year after training camp. I think he can do it, and I think he can play at this level now, and I think we should call him up. Other two, Adam Henrique and Kyle Palmieri, 30-goal seasons. That's a great milestone to hit. That's great that the two of them are two leading guys who are supposed to be like that. If Mike Camilleri had stayed healthy, there'd be three of them, did their jobs. They came up and they were strong. They played well in the game. Adam Henrique obviously nets 2 goals, gets it done. You've got Kyle Palmieri, gets that empty netter. It's still a goal. It doesn't matter how it crossed the line. It crossed the line in a legal fashion. That's 30 goals. And the biggest story of the night, not Corey Schneider. Corey Schneider got a win. I get that, and that's a big deal. It was on 19 saves, though. It's not like usually where we're just letting him get barraged with shots, where it's like 40-20, which, whether you like it or not, that was our season. We just let them carpet bomb Corey Schneider. Was Patrick Elias coming back? His first few games back, he gets a goal and 2 assists and gets named the first star of the night and puts an end cap on this season that I think every fan can be happy with, is the idea of that guy is back and he's producing and he's back at 100%, and I think he could play another year if he wanted to. I really do think he could play another year in this league. Now we're on to the rough part, the pros and cons of this season. And you're not going to like some opinions, you're probably going to like some of them. They're not going to go with what everybody says. I'm not going to hype people who don't deserve the hype, and I'm going to hype some people who don't get enough. My pros of the season, biggest one was defense. Our goals against average is proof enough of that. Andy Green and Adam Larson were probably some of the best defensive pairs in the NHL this year. They played amazingly, and they played very well. And also just the scores were proof of that. We had games where we got blown out, but every team had that. What the proof was, we didn't have multiple games where we were letting 4 or 5 goals go. A lot of these games were like 2-1, 2-0 losses. You know, they were solid defensive games, just no goals got put on the board to help back up what the defense was doing. Goaltending was a good thing for the most part. We lost Corey Schneider for a month. You can't take that away. That sucks. That sucked. And you know what? I can't fault the fact that Keith Kincaid stepped up very well and played well this year as a backup. And Scott Wedgwood proved that he's going to come up one day and be a very good goaltender in this organization, or in another organization if he gets traded. Let's hope that doesn't happen. The rookies looked solid-ish, and I'm going to say ish for a couple of reasons. Let me do the best part of it. Pavel Zacha, great game last night. We only saw him once, but from what I saw in the Sarnia Sting stats, he played great this year for Sarnia, especially in the playoffs. What is it? 7 games? He had 13 points or something like that. You can't fault that. 13 points in a playoff run, that's not bad for a team that got eliminated. And then you have Reed Boucher, had a lot of game-winning goals. He played well. I'm trying to think here. The 2 kids we just called up, Woods and Santini, played good last night. You know, it's their first time in the NHL. They're nervous, but they're good, solid players, and they're going to make a difference in this league for this team. And I think they can turn around and be more offensive for us. Joseph Blandisi, I like him. I really do. And offensively, he's a great player. But he has discipline issues. And not off the ice. It's not off the ice. Off the ice, I'm sure he's great. On the ice, though, he just has got... I get being in the middle of everything, and I get being that player. but he could be such a better offensive player if he didn't chase everything that happened to him. If he could just learn to skate away. Just skate away. That's all you got to do. Because every time he gets in a fight, it's like, we could have had a 5-on-4. Nope, we're going to have a 4-on-4 because Joseph Blandisi wouldn't walk away. If he would just walk away and not instigate those roughings, those coincidentals, it wouldn't be 4-on-4 all the time. It would be 5-on-4. But overall, I think the rookies played very well, and I think that it shows that our farm teams are doing very well. Look at Albany. Look at Sarnia did very well. All these teams where we've got players kind of stacked around all have our good players with them, and we can call them up when we need them, and we can start to reset this team up and over. Because I think that's a big thing a lot of people forgot about this year, was it was a rebuild year. And all the other, what sucks for us is that we played that much better than all the other rebuild teams. Look at Toronto, look at Edmonton. They all embraced the tank and just decided to sit at the bottom when we were like, we could do this anyway. And we defended a playoff spot for like a month. That's unbelievable. We were supposed to be 30th in the league. There's people on NHL.com who wrote New Jersey will be the worst team in the league this year, and we played better than every other team hardly. We played great. We were in a playoff spot with a negative 24 goal differential. We were scoring less than our opponents, and we were still beating them out for a playoff spot. You know how infuriating that must have been for them? Now we have to get into the cons of this year, and unfortunately for me, this list was a little bit longer than the pros, but I have a little bit more to vamp on here because I feel like those things stick with you more. The lack of offense was the biggest thing. We have to put goals on the board. And there's things that can do this. Like, don't go for that one last pass. Just shoot. A lot of these goals you see other teams getting when they're outscoring the living shit out of us is they just shoot it and put it on net. If you put it on net, he has to make that save. Eventually, he can't make them all. We would go pass. About the 9th lap around the frickin' circle. You know, they decide to figure this out. They poke it away from us, and then they have an odd man rush. At some point, you have to shoot. I think the biggest things are the defensemen should shoot more. I think we need to quit trying to force it to a forward and let our defensemen shoot. I think John Moore was proof of that. John Moore had good offensive moments. David Schlemko, good offensive moments. You know, Damon Severson he led the defensemen in points. Adam Larson, plus minus, you know. It's like you have to put points on the board. Let them shoot. And especially firing from out there at the point, there's so much traffic, it could just take some weird bounce and get through there, you know. You've really got to put stuff on net for it to happen. I think that's really what we need to look to do as a team. The next thing is the dump and chase. And we ranted about this on the subreddit. I was a part of the conversation. And you may not agree with my evidence for it, and I get why the dump and chase is used by some teams, but we're not that team. Not right now, anyway. You have to have speed, and I mean speed. Like Dylan Larkin from 0 to 60 speed to do a dump and chase successfully. Because you have to pass it past them, then win the race coming from behind them to pick up that puck again. And we never did that. We either crashed the end boards and got boarded up and stuck down, or we didn't win the race and they just turned it around back and sent it back up ice for a play on their end. You know what I mean? You need to have that speed, and without that speed, there was no point in attempting it. We needed to take our time and set up for better chances, or just try and kind of play around the blue line and move in. But trying to dump and chase every time, it worked good sometimes, but most of the time it turned into a rush on the other end. And now we're fighting back in our own end again. So what was the point? We achieved 10 seconds of relief for a line change, but we also tried to use it to not get line changes and just generate offense, and that wasn't working. Speed was the biggest thing I think that really affected that, was just the idea of from 0 to 60 to start. And I noticed a lot of times players would win races, and then it was like they had nowhere to go because it was like line changes weren't well timed, where it's like, you know, this player runs in, like Devontae Smith-Pelly makes an end run, picks up the puck, runs it deep and in, and then he turns around to pass it to somebody, nobody home, because we're making a line change, and now we're on defense. You know, it's like we're leaving guys alone in there, you know, just maybe make a line change while the transition is going on, but not once we've cleared the zone. Do it in center ice and see if we can play it like that. I know that's risky, but, you know, sometimes you got to take those risks. Discipline was another big thing. We took a lot of penalties this year on stupid calls. And I get you can say, oh, the refs are calling this, and the refs call in favor for this team, and they call in favor for this team. But that's crap. Here's how the refs call the penalties. When it's as flagrant as some of the crap we pulled, you're going to get it. Bench minors. Too many men on the ice. Unacceptable professional level. You need to know who's going on and who's coming off. Now, every team does it every once in a while. That's great, but I saw it happen twice in the same game. That's kind of, you know, let's get it together, folks. Discipline otherwise, Joseph Blandisi is another one of those discipline things. I already harped on that, which is that he needs to not chase everybody that touches him. He's just got to let it go. Bobby Farnham is another case of this. Now, Bobby Farnham, he ends up fighting, and that's going to send them both, and I'm okay with that. But I'm going to get to him in a minute. But discipline-wise, we just need to quit taking stupid penalties when we don't have to. Now, I get if he's about to shoot and you got to run him down, get him out of the shooting zone or clear a screen. I get that. But there's times like we're skating up ice and we take a tripping call or something. just don't put your stick over there. You know, just watch out and don't play the man like that because he doesn't have the puck. And there are going to be bad calls and that happens, but a lot of this wasn't bad calls. This was just bad discipline on our part. My final point overall for this season, the 2015-2016 season, is some people who are playing for this team currently shouldn't be next year. And I've got my eyes on some defensemen, some forwards, some everybody. People who I think shouldn't be here next year. Bobby Farnham. I like the guy. I do. I really do. But honestly, he's almost a liability to have on the ice. That role in hockey is going away. It is sort of kind of the John Scott kind of thing. And you could say that Jordan Tutu is the same thing. But then again, at that point, we need to pick one of them. Because to have two of them, it's kind of like, you know, at this point, you're just building a thug line. And I get why that exists. But at the other side, what is it producing for you? Now, to be fair, that fourth line produced a lot this year. So there's pros and cons to keeping them and letting them go. Cons are they're a very productive fourth line as far as fourth lines for this team go. Cons are the penalties are real and they happen a lot, and they both got fined and suspended at least once. And at a certain point, you know, it's like, Christ. Now that suspension on Bobby Farnham, to hark on that for a moment, there's no reason that was 4 games. It's his first season playing a full season in the NHL. He's not a repeat offender by the clause, by the, you know, collective bargaining agreement. And they gave him 4 games. When I saw repeat offenders do worse and get less. You know what I mean? Duncan Keith, I'm looking at you. But, you know, it's just like, there's no reason that was 4 games. Now, it happened, and that suspension gets served, and I get that. But I feel like that was a little bit extreme for a first-timer. And for somebody who was like a fourth-liner, he's not a star. No offense to Bobby Farnham. But I think that's really what we need to look at there. Other people, David Schlemko, I know that my flair on the subreddit is David Schlemko's jersey, and I get that, and I like the guy. But as far as defensemen go, him and Damon Severson need to get it together. Severson easily turns the puck over sometimes. And I get that you have a bad night and it's like your sophomore slump, but he really needs to watch what he's doing with the puck. And Schlemko has the same problem sometimes where he goes in and it's just those battles along the boards, he fights really hard and they just don't go his way. Now, I may be totally misinterpreting this, and you can take it as you will. That's the point of these videos, is for us to discuss, and you can talk about it on the subreddit or talk about it in the comment section below, or you can bitch at me on my social media pages. That's fine. I probably won't respond if you're an idiot about it, but if you have a constructive argument, I'll probably side with you. But I just don't think those two defensive-wise were 2 of the lesser defensemen. Now, John Moore, I thought played great, and I'm glad we got him locked into a contract. Andy Green and Adam Larson, great. Now, how long does Andy Green have? I don't know. I think him and Elias are kind of in the same boat. We're going to see them kind of start to wind down here. I think Patrick Elias has 1 more season in him, but I think if he plays 1 more season, it'll be his last, if this one wasn't. You know what I mean? I think that's really how that's going to play. As far as this show moving forward, the big things that are going to happen is once the season starts back up again next season, and as we get closer to next season, there'll be more news. I can make more of these videos. I may make one for every game, but I might not. What I may do is, like, if I'm busy during the week because I'm in college, you know, there may be, you know, a video that collectively discusses 2 or 3 games and everything that happened in between. You know, that's really how that's going to go. Or I may just do a weekly recap of the Devils every week, or it's like on a Monday, like this video is. You're going to see a video that's like the Devil's Advocate episode, whatever, you know, week something of the season recap. And I'm just going to recap the games that were in there, talk about what I think, talk about how I think we should change going forward. But I think, once again, to recap, pros of the season were defense, goaltending, for the most part, and rookies looking pretty solid, and our farm teams looking solid. Cons were the lack of offense, the dump and chase, which has to stop, the speed, the discipline, and some people need to go, and some people need to come on. Now I'm going to do a part that I want to do for these videos that you can submit to me on the subreddit, or at my Reddit account, or in the YouTube comments below, or on my social media, which is the question segment where you guys can ask me questions, and I can kind of discuss them, and we can have a bit of a back and forth about how I think it's going to go. Question 1 is from Schneiderman on the subreddit. He says, realistically, what moves could you see Shiro making at the draft, trades or picks, and free agency? Realistically, I think a lot of the core is still there. I think we're going to keep a lot of the guys we have. Obviously, a lot of them are in long-term contracts. We're not going to be able to change that. People I see as trying to pick up are going to be those mid-range guys, kind of like Devontae Smith-Pelly. You know, we can kind of fill out some slots. Core defense-wise, I really see we probably won't have Schlemko next year. And I think that's unfortunate, but I feel like that's probably a good move in the long run for making this offensive switch we're trying to make into a new organization that's more offensively minded. But I really think he's going to... I think we're going to keep the picks we have. I don't think we're going to try and move up any slots. We got a lot of good ones. We actually have a % chance at the number 1 pick, but Edmonton's probably going to win it again because it just seems to be rigged in their favor. But I really think that we'll see good draft picks come out, and I think we'll have a good shot at it. Question 2 is from Ichari29 on the subreddit. He says, prospects who we should take a look at and consider if they can help the team as a top 12 forward or as a top 6 defenseman. These include Zacha, Pietila, Helgeson, and Wedgwood. Zacha, obviously, I think is going to play for us next year, and I really hope he does. I think he's ready to do it, and he played at a mature level last night against the Maple Leafs, and I think he proved that he can play as a professional. Pietila, I think, played well. You know, I don't know if he's ready exactly for the NHL, but I think he played very well, and I think he could go back to the Albany Devils and be a good call-up for when injuries happen, a good backup kind of player. Helgeson played great defense. I think he's going to be a number 1 defenseman one day, and I think he could easily be in the top 6 at one point in his career. I think he's got some bugs to work out, but he's new, so I think that's not unusual, and I really think we can look to him. And I can't complain about how Scott Wedgwood played. I think he played great. I think he got stuck in a bad situation with being called on so soon and so fast to start playing at that level. But I honestly think that him and Keith Kincaid could easily compete with each other for the backup next year. Obviously, Corey Schneider will continue to start. But if I had to pick between the two of them who I'd rather have backing up Corey Schneider, I'd honestly pick Scott Wedgwood. He played better than Keith Kincaid did in that stretch. And I feel like that's honestly a good showing as a goaltender. And I think he should be called up. So that's going to end the questions segment. I hope you have a good day, a great week, and a great year. And as always, be you, be awesome, stay relentless. Thank you. Bye-bye.